So welcome. We are here today to present you the line of color called Mask with Vibrachrom by Davines. It is one of our permanent hair coloring system, permanent oxidative hair coloring system. So to transform hair color, natural hair color to something else entirely. This is how the system presents itself. We have our tubes, 100-gram tubes, large tubes. Being Davines, the conception, the manufacturation, everything is completely sustainable. Our boxes are made of just raw paper, no inks, unnecessary inks, and the inks that are there are vegetable-based inks, vegetal inks, and they can be recycled, if not even composted possibly. Oxidants are made of bioplastics, a vegetal source of type of plastic. And our bowls and brushes, we have three brushes, small for detailed work, medium for regrowth application, and then a larger for lengths and ends, a larger brush for lengths and ends. And our bowls, and at Davines, we use scales. We weigh absolutely everything. We want precision in our work. We want stability in our work. We want to make sure that from month to month, your guest gets the same formula exactly, so we do weigh absolutely everything on our scales. So this is one of our books. We have two types of books. Now the one you're getting is slightly different. It looks a little bit thicker, and inside it has 3 booklets in the middle section. The 3 booklets are exactly like what this is. So it's a booklet for browns, cool and warm, a booklet for reds, cool and warm, and the booklet for blondes, cool and red, also subdivided. And on the back page, we have our naturals. So all of the shades that are available in those booklets or inside here can cover grays up to 50% of grays in the hair, in the client's hair. If we need to work beyond 50% of grays in the client's hair, we need to add a natural, one of our choice. We have 4 families of naturals, which is really interesting instead of just one like most brands. So natural, like a neutral natural, will be our 0.0s, 1.0 all the way up to 10.0s. It is a neutral, natural, brown, slightly cool, but not an ash. Intense naturals, 44.0s, 33.0, 44.0, 55, 66, all the way up to 99.0s. So it is the same natural reflect, but double the base. So this line, this family, we use for resistant grays that are hard to cover. So we all have those clients here and there in our clientele that we have to work with this line, and then it works beautifully. Third family, we have natural ash, so 0.1. So 0.1 in a wheel of color is a ash tone, a blue tone, but in this case, it is also a gray coverage tone, so which is quite peculiar. So it's a natural ash from 4.1 all the way to 9.1 to complement a cool shade. Like this one here, I have a 6.22 here. If I wanted to cover 80% of grays, I could go with 6.0, 1/3, for 2/3 of 6.22, knowing that adding a neutral brown will tone down ever so slightly the 0.22 reflect. But if I wanted to preserve the 0.22 reflect and still cover the grays, I would choose a natural ash, 6.1, 1/3, for 2/3 of 6.22, and I get my coverage, and I respect and preserve the intensity, the vibrancy of my 0.22 reflect. And same thing goes for the last family of naturals. Those are the single digits, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we call them natural warms. So other scenario, like a very intense copper, like a 6.44, client wants that color. Option, yes, 6.0. I can definitely use 6.0, 1/3 for 2/3 of 644, knowing that my 0.0 will slightly calm down the 0.44, which can be what we want for certain clients. But if you do get that client that wants the vibrancy as bright as possible, then I would recommend using this 6 natural warm as a base, as a gray coverage base for 1/3 and then 2/3 of the 644. So you get the coverage and you respect the intensity of the reflect. Everything it can be will still be, like it will be as bright as possible while still covering the grays. So this is the way quickly saying this is how the book presents itself, up to 50% of grays, up to 100% of grays with the naturals, just the naturals on their own, or added to a desired reflect, 1/3 for 2/3. So this is really just your basic starting information. So some characteristics of the system, some benefits of the system. It is a permanent oxidative color line. It contains ammonia, but it does not have a lot of ammonia. It has a minimal amount of ammonia. So 0.6 up to 2.4% of ammonia per tube. And it is graduated according to the level. So from level 1, we're at 0.6% ammonia, graduated all the way up to 2.4% of ammonia at level 10. Only the high-lift blondes, which is our 12 series, 1218, 1221, 1211, 1271, 1213, we have a few choices are available. So these will have 3.9% ammonia because it needs to lift up to 5 levels of lift to get where we want to go. So there's a lot more ground to cover, so we need a little bit more ammonia to boost the oxygen to oxidize to the proper level that we're looking for. So other benefits, the line is multi-dimensional. So it is a line that is far from opaque. It mimics, reproduces natural hair color beautifully. It goes, 100% of the pigments go to the cortex. They transform the natural melanins to something entirely different, to a whole other color, but it does so in a way that mimics the natural melanins, so the result looks very, very, very natural. So very multi-dimensional, as natural hair is. It covers up to 100% of grays. It will lift and darken easily 4 levels. Delicate scent, it smells really, really good. It is pleasant for the client when the color is applied on her head. It's not aggressive at all. Large tubes, 100-gram tubes, so 1 tube goes a very long way. So we do many, many clients with 1 tube. 5 oxidants are available, 5, 10, 20, 30, and 40 volume. And we have 108 shades right now. It keeps growing season to season, year after year, a little bit more shades available. And technology. What is Vibrachrom? So what is that technology that Davines created? It is a technology that we can claim with it that we have extra shine, extra softness of hair, and extra retention of pigments. So how do we do that? So 3 main ingredients coming from 3 different worlds. So first one will be the quinoa extract. So a protein extracted from quinoa. So that comes from the natural world. So from that we get color retention, increased color retention, and shine. So the quinoa protein will go down into the cortex, will help to anchor the pigments in the cortex, enhancing the longevity of the color, and also sealing the cortex, not sealing the surface of the hair, but sealing the cortex, creating shine when the light reflects upon it. So we get 2 benefits, shine and color retention. From the cosmetic world, we've extracted a component coming from the omega-9s. So it's one thing that's called W9. So W9 will actually coat the hair surface on top of the cuticles, compacting the cuticles, sealing the surface of the hair, providing extreme softness and shine. So we've already doubled the shine aspect. And the third ingredient comes from the textile world. So the textile world, we've looked into it and realized that black tends to not fade as much as it used to fade in past years. Color stays beautifully now. And we've examined what it is, what does that, and it's called the phospholipidic carrier. So the phospholipidic carrier plays the same role even in very delicate textiles like silk. So Davines thought that, why not? Why not integrate it in hair color and see what it can do? And it works beautifully. It helps to enhance the retention of color and adds also to the softness of the hair, being lipidic, phospholipidic carrier. So it plays a few roles. First of all, within the bowl of color, as you're mixing, it helps to envelop the molecule of color and squeeze it and shrink it, make it ever so slightly smaller than it already is. This is why we were able to have such a low content of ammonia, because we don't need to open cuticles as much if the molecule is shrunk to a smaller size. Lipidic makes it very easy to slide into those barely open cuticles and get into the hair and travel all the way to the cortex. Once there, it is distributed evenly thanks to the phospholipid carrier in the zone of hair that you're coloring. Whether it's just a regrowth or the whole length of hair, it will be distributed evenly. And so it helps to enhance the shine and also the retention, the softness and the retention of color. So 3 ingredients coming from 3 different worlds, giving us each 2 benefits that we can claim to have extra shine, extra softness, and also extra color retention. So these are main benefits of our system. Underlying pigments. Everybody knows what they are. Those are pigments that the natural melanins will produce while being oxidized by the chemical process. So this is just a scale that tells you that what are the underlying pigments that you can expect to have to deal with at each level. We always draw them out, I always mention them, and then I leave them up on the wall during the trainings. They can be slightly different from company to company. All of our system is built on that theory. So we have to think of, if my client is at level 5, she wants to go up to a level 7, I will have to deal with orange at the end level, and also red orange as I'm traveling through. So these are the things that I must think about as I'm formulating in order to properly control or use those underlying pigments if I'm doing a warm color, which is going to be great. So, what's in a tube? Sorry. So what is in a tube? I just wanted to give you a representation of what can be expected to be found in a tube of color, chemically speaking. Of course, there's a whole list of things that I can't go through. Basically, we have the ammonia that is responsible to open the cuticles and is the catalyst to free the oxygen from the oxidant. And also, we have the pigments. So, base pigments are responsible for defining the level of the color and also creating the gray coverage we can expect from a color. So in a tube of mask, in what I've called here regular shades, meaning the shades that you have found inside your 3 booklets or inside these 3 pages. So these are my regular shades that I'm calling them. So these have small amount of base in it, but a whole lot of reflex. So Davines has decided, compared to our previous system, the previous mask, which was 50% of base and 50% reflect, we've decided to shrink the amount of base in order to get a whole lot of reflect, which is what you and I enjoy when we work in a salon. We want the reflex to control or to enhance. The base is there to define the level and cover the grays. So this is why in those regular shades, we say you can expect up to 50% of gray coverage because there's just enough base in order to do that. So minimal amount of base, a cool base, a slightly bluish base, and then a lot of reflect. So whether it's a controlling ash reflect or intensifying copper and red reflex, there's a lot of bang for your buck in a tube. Naturals, 0.0s that I talked about, the 0.1s, natural ash, and the natural warms, those 3 families of naturals. Why do they cover up to 100% of grays? There's more base in the tube. So this is the only reason why it covers up to 100% of grays. And in the intense naturals, 55.0, 66.0, etc., even more base, enhancing the coverage for resistant grays. So you have a choice, one of the 3 here, or the intense naturals to complement your desired reflect in order to get coverage on 0% of grays up to 100% of grays. You can just formulate to your liking. So as far as our reflex goes, so this is this other big part of the content of a tube. So the reflex of Davines, our 0.0 is our natural. A natural, chemically speaking, is always made up of yellow, red, and blue. You need the 3 primary colors to create neutral. So we can put 0.0 in the middle. It is made of yellow, red, and blue. But I'm going to make a big arrow towards the blue. meaning that our natural is slightly grayish. It is cooler than most naturals in the industry. It is not an ash, but it is a slightly controlling natural. It has enough coolness in the base and the reflect to provide a certain control on most clients. Now, 0.1, we just saw the family of 0.1 in the naturals. We have 0.1s, we have 0.11s, we have different combinations of reflex together. So 0.1 is our blue. And I'm writing it a little bit on this side of the blue because according to the level, if it's 4.1, it is 0.1 is blue. But if it goes all the way up to 9.1, it tends to lean a little bit more towards the violet. So it's a blue, blue-violet, the lighter it gets. 0.2 is actually violet. So very classic, very typical so far. 0.3 is our gold. 0.4 is our copper. 0.5 is a mahogany. And mahogany is a combination of secondary and primary reflect. So it is violet and red together. That makes up a 0.5. So 0.5 reflect is here. 0.6 is a red, true red, bright red, beautiful red. 0.7, so 0.7 we call it beige. So we've managed to create beige in one reflect. Most of the time beige will be a combination of 0.1 and 0.3, 0.2 and 0.3 is an ash and a gold together to create something beige. So in one reflect we've managed to do so by combining green and yellow together. So that green becomes lighter and softer because it's combined to yellow, but it's still like a light green. So 0.7 sits here, made up of green and yellow. And excuse me if yellow looks green to you because I had to use a light green felt pen because I couldn't find a yellow that you could see. So 0.7 beige. And then 0.8, it is our green. A true green, a truly controlling green to neutralize red beautifully. Like you won't have any issues controlling reds anymore within the Davines family of colors. So this is what's in a tube. Your base, the amount of base, depending on the type of tubes that you're using, the reflex that are all defined here from 0.0 all the way to 0.8. This is the content of our tube. A tube which we absolutely need to combine with oxygen in order to get a proper chemical reaction. So oxygen is the part that oxidizes the natural melanins. Oxidizing them means lifting to then deposit new pigments and create a whole new hair color. So the oxygen is really crucial to the success, the proper choice of oxidant. And it's something maybe to change a little bit in your mindset because 20 volume within our Davines world provides you one level of lift when I'm coloring natural hair, 20 volume will also be necessary in gray coverage when it's above 50% of grays. So very important. Below 50% of grays, you will use whatever oxidant you need to use, 20, 30, 40, in order to get the hair that is not gray where you want it to be. Other use, change of reflect. What I mean by change of reflect is when someone walks in with an existing hair color that's a cosmetic hair color. Let's say she's a 7.34 and she would like to get rid of that copper reflex. She wants to go to something a little bit more neutral. So that is a change of color. So this you will definitely need to do at 20 volume for a full processing time of 35 minutes. Darkening hair, the natural hair that I want to darken or color at the same level. So she's level 5 naturally. I want to create a level 5, whatever the reflect may be, 4, 3, 2, depending on that level. As long as I'm on the same level or darkening, it is recommended in order to get the most out of the system, the most out of Vibrachrom, it is recommended to do so at 20 volume. But It could be done at 10 volume also. There's nothing wrong with doing it at 10 volume. You're at the same level or darkening the hair. The company recommends it at 20 volume to get the best out of the system, but 10 volume will work beautifully also, especially this is what I've started to do. If I'm darkening and I want a color to be warm, if I'm using a warm reflect, I will use a 20 volume. If I'm darkening and I want it to stay a cool tone, if I'm darkening a level 5 down to a 4.22 or 3.51 or down to a 2.11, all cool reflex, I will tend to use a 10 volume in order to not unnecessarily generate a warm underlying pigment. So this is our 20 volume. 30 volume provides us 2 levels of lift. 40 volume provides us 3 levels of lift. So if I need to do 4 levels of lift, which might be necessary, we don't have 50 volume, doesn't exist in North America. So 4 levels of lift, I will need to combine 000 to my formula. So what is 000? 000 is a tube like any other tube in the system. It is a tube that has all the chemistry of the regular tube of color, but has 0 pigments. So we call it our booster. So by including 1/3 of 000 to 2/3 of my desired shade at 40 volume, I will generate 4 levels of lift. So in this case, let's say a client would be a natural level 3 at the regrowth, and I need to create a level 7, 1/3 of 000, 2/3 of 7.18 at 40 volume for full processing time, and then I will get my 4 levels of lift to get a clean lift up to a true level 7. So 4 levels of lift by including 000, 1/3 to 2/3 of your desired shade. So the 10 volume, which becomes only mostly for darkening this scenario in terms of coloring with masked Vibrachrom. And we also have a 5 volume, which we use for toning. So there's a possibility of toning with masked with Vibrachrom that still exists. We've had now View, which is our demi-permanent that we've been using mostly for toning now for a couple of years. But before that, we were toning everybody with masked with Vibrachrom. It has a low ammonia, so there's a possibility to tone using any shade of masked with Vibrachrom with 5 volume. So you can get a toner, but remember that it is an alkaline toner. You still have the chance or the risk of oxidizing a natural hair color if there is natural hair left in between the highlights. So if it's a color treated base that you're doing highlights to, you don't need to worry. You could definitely tone with masked with Vibrachrom or View, which is even way better nowadays. 5 volume we will also use in repigmentation, which we will be talking a little bit in a few minutes. So these are our oxidants and what to do with them in every scenario. So we have intensifiers that are available in the system also. I didn't show them earlier, I was waiting for that moment. So the intensifiers, we have 4 of them for the time being. We might have a few more in the years to come. So we have 4. Light ash intensifier, dark ash intensifier, violet intensifier, and red intensifier. So I have them here on the board to better explain what they do and how to use them. So if I'm looking for more control, I've tried a few formulas which most of the time are satisfying, but if you're looking for even more control, if someone has a ethnic background that generates a lot of warmth when you lift their hair, so you need more control. 0.12 light ash intensifier we will use when in our bowl we pour shades that are levels 8, 9, and 10. Dark ash intensifier 0.18 you will use to add control with green, like it's blue and green, so a darker ash, when you're using shades between level 4, 5, 6, and 7. So if you're looking for even more control on the red and the orange. If you want to add violet, and if you want to add red to dark shades, so 0.25 will be your violet intensifier to add in shades that are between levels 2 and 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you want to make something a bit more redder, shades that are in between levels 3 to 7 to make it redder and brighter, you will use your red intensifier 0.66. Now be mindful that violet is definitely to add violet in dark shades. Do not get confused with controlling yellows at levels 8, 9, and 10. It will definitely make it like peachy, pinky, and it's definitely meant to be dark. Light ash intensifier is what controls yellow at levels 8, 9, and 10. So a very important difference to make. How to use them? You can integrate up to 25% of your main shade that you are putting in the bowl as an intensifier. So trying to explain this better. Examples are easier. So if I'm using 40 grams of 8.1, I can add 10 grams of 0.12 because I'm working at level 8. I need my light ash intensifier. And so this becomes 50 grams of color that I will mix thoroughly together the creams in order to create a unified shade. After which I will pour 75 grams of oxidant and continue mixing and wipe my brush and use a fresh brush to apply the color. Make sure I don't have a lot of intensifiers stuck in the bristles somewhere. So very important to apply with a fresh brush. So this is how you use your intensifiers. Up to 25% of the main shade, and don't be scared to put the 25%. It works beautifully. Like don't go like only 3 grams or 5 grams, it probably won't be enough. So 25% is a really good reference. So this is our intensifiers. A diagnostic. When it's time to formulate, you need to do a diagnostic. You know your clients, you've known them for years, but now that you've changed system, you need to probably reestablish yourself, reposition a little bit, make sure you're starting on the good starting point. So first of all, determine the natural level. You probably know that client's natural level, you've known it for years, but take a second to measure with our naturals to make sure that she is a true level 5, which you've always known. From company to company, it can change. So even though you've always known her to be a level 5, if you look at with our book, who knows, she might be a level 4 Davines or a level 6 Davines. So make sure you evaluate using your swatch book that you will be using the brand with. From starting point, natural level, then you determine the desired color. So that is your second question, of course. So once I know where I'm starting from and where I am going, right away, I know which oxidant I will need to get there. If she is below 50% of grays. If she is above 50% of grays, I will need to stick to 20 volume. Okay, so very important fact. Underlying pigments, which we just talked about in our chart here. So our underlying pigments are also a question to ask yourself, especially under 50% of grays, where you'll be needing to use 20, 30, or 40 volumes. So you will need to determine what is the underlying pigment that you will need to work with or against in order to properly formulate. Another question that's interesting to think about is ethnicity. We know that everybody that's Mediterranean, Italians and Greeks and Spanish and so on and so forth have a lot of pheomelanin, that orange melanin inside the hair. So if you know the client's ethnic background, you can formulate according to that. You can modify your formulation to better control that or use it if you want to use it. So people that are Irish and Scottish, they have an additional melanin, which is called trichosiderine in French. I don't know how to pronounce it in English, but it is a true red melanin that is an added melanin that they have, which gives them their copper, natural copper redness of hair. So these people, you will need to work even harder at controlling that. So those are just like points to think about. The real diagnostic is really those 4 main points, and then to that, I kind of think about that ethnicity and also texture of hair. Like if it's a normal medium density, I rely on my diagnostic to choose my oxidant. If she's super fine hair, like if the diagnostic tells me I need to lift 2 levels, that's 30 volume. On super fine hair, I might go down to 20 volume. I will reach the cortex very, very fast because it's super fine hair. And the opposite is that if it's really, really coarse, like a big, big chunky hair, I will need more energy to probably get those 2 levels of lift, so I might need to go to 40 volume to get only 2 levels of lift on really coarse hair. So it's all things that I consider in the back of my mind as I say, hello, how are you, had a good week, and chit chat. So you kind of go through all these points in order to properly formulate. So as far as formulating, now that we know what's in our tube, what does oxygen do and which ones we should use, and we know a diagnostic and we know our reflex and everything, we're ready to create a formula. So if your client is from 0 to 50% of grays, you can apply any desired shade that you want on its own if you want. No need really to add a natural, but up to you to do so if you choose to do so. But we can cover grays with any regular shades up to 50% of grays. Appropriate oxidant according to your diagnostic, 20, 30, 40 volume, really important. The mixing ratio, 1 part color to 1.5 of oxidant, meaning 40 grams of color times 1.5 equals 60 grams of oxidant. 50 grams of color times 1.5 equals 75 grams of oxidant. And our processing time, 35 minutes. When it's 50% and up of gray hair, 60, 70, 80, 100% of grays, you will need to do minimally 1/3 of the natural of your choice, which we talked about a few minutes ago, and 2/3 of your desired shade. If there's a desired shade that's other than just a natural. So you could use just a natural if you wanted to, of course. And you will need to remain at 20 volume in order to properly cover those grays. Ratio remains the same, 1 to 1.5, 35 minutes also. Check it. If you feel that there's still a little bit of transparency, let it go up to 45 minutes. So optional to go up to 45 minutes, but I do check at 35. I don't just let it go to 45 because she has 60% of grays. So quite often 35 is enough. No need to go for more. A high lift color, like those high lift blondes, the 12 series, 1201, 1211, 1213, 1218, 1221, and 1271. They are tubes of level 10 blonde pigments. They are there to create the lightest blonde, the most translucent and luminous blondes possible that could start from level 5. So if I start from level 5, I will have a whole lot of red orange to control, so I will use 12, 1218. If I start from level 6, 1218 or 1211, if I start from level 7, I can be a little bit more flexible, could be 1211, 1221, 1271. So the lighter your starting point is, the less control you'll need. So, but if you're starting from level 5, 1218, perfect choice. Don't start from level 3. It will lift 5 levels to a level 8, which is still very orange, and those level 10 pigments in the tube won't be able to manage that strong of an underlying pigment. So it is designed to go from the darkest level 5 to 10, no lower than that, very important. Mixing ratio, 1 to 2, definitely important. If I use 30 volume, I will get 4 levels of lift. If I use 40 volume, I will get 5 levels of lift. And we let it process minimally 50 minutes up to 60 minutes processing time in order to get all that lift and that deposit also to happen. So a lot more work needs to be done, and we need a stronger formulation with more processing time. And toning, we briefly talked about toning earlier. It is possible to tone with mask. It is an alkaline toner. Remember it. It might, I'm going to say it will, but it might oxidize natural melanins if the hair is natural in between the highlights. So be mindful of that. So you can use any shade within the mask system. It is really up to you. You be creative, do whatever you want. Mixing ratio 1 to 2, just like we did for the high lift, but we use only 5 volume. That's it. Don't try 10, don't try 20. In fact, the higher the volume you would use, the more lift you would get on the natural hair. So depending what you're looking for. Sometimes you're looking to tone and still break the base ever so slightly, then it could be done in one step. So processing time, 5 to 20 minutes. Ideally, we try to reach the 20 minutes in order to get longevity. Like so that it stays in the hair as long as possible. So this is our main formulating situation. And now we have the repigmentation process. So repigmentation is something that we need to do when we speak to a client that comes in and she's totally bleached out. Like her hair has been bleached to platinum blonde for years. And today she decides that it's over. I want to be a brunette. I want to be a darker redhead. I want to be a mahogany level 4. So we need to first put in the hair pigments that will mimic a natural underlying pigment in order to have a good base for our final color to deposit itself, anchor itself, bond itself to that, and create a rich, nice, beautiful, shiny finish. Instead of other scenario that people try to do, never really works well, it's just applying final color over that bleached hair. It creates a very dull, very flat looking color, very pale, doesn't really get the depth that you're looking for, and will fade really quickly because the hair is void of natural melanins. So we have to input what would mimic in natural melanins and then do the final color to get a great result. So first thing to know is to actually define the final desired color with your client, which is, of course, so choose a color, a shade that's within the book. And then from there, you need to choose what will be your repigmentation shade, which shade you will use to repigment. So we have 3 shades that we use for that. They're all intense shades, let's say. So 8.33 intense copper, 8.44 intense copper, I'm sorry, 8.33 intense gold, 8.44 intense copper, and 6.66 intense red. Very, very deep, very strong colors that will deposit a beautiful base for your final color to grab on. So if the final level, the final color, if the level of the final color desired is between 6 and 8, 6, 7, or 8, your shade to repigment will be 8.33. If the final color sits in between levels 3 and 6, you will repigment with 8.44. And if the final desired color is somewhere between 1 and 3, you will repigment with 6.66. So one of these 3 shades mixed 1 to 1.5 at 5 volume will be your repigmentation formula. You will apply that formula on towel dried hair only where the hair has been bleached. If you have a natural regrowth or there's a section of the hair that's never been colored, you would definitely need to focus on only the bleached out hair, the pre-lighting hair. You let process for 15 minutes, rinse only, no need to shampoo. Blow dry the hair first. I forgot to write blow dry, so you first blow dry the hair and then you apply your end desired shade that you've picked from the beginning at 1 to 1.5 ratio. 20 volume for a full 35 minutes because this is a scenario of change of reflect. Let's say you've just added like 844 because she wants to be a level 5 at the end. So the hair is now bright copper. So this is a change of reflect and you will probably formulate something like, let's say 5.11 at 20 volume for a full 35 minutes. To change that copper to a neutral level 5 brown. So this is the repigmentation process that you need to do in those few instances. Every now and then that we get some clients that want to darken their hair permanently. Great result. And this, I mean, it's not long. Like, it is so easy. You mix in a second, you apply, 15 minutes processing times, rinse. Someone can blow dry, sometimes the client blow dries herself or in the hood dryer while you're preparing the end formula and you apply the end formula. So there's no need for rebooking another appointment for this process, and it's not so extensive that you can do it easily within a regular appointment time. So this is the repigmentation, which closes the notions of maskless Vibrachrom to color hair in salons. Thank you.